everyone. Well, it's 1 o'clock now. I will go ahead and start the webinar. First of all, thank you again for joining us. It's so great to be with you all on St. Patrick's Day, no less. Happy St. Patty's Day to all of you. And I want to just go ahead and introduce myself. First and foremost, I'm Rachel Miller. I am the Regional Director for Scientific Partnerships in North Carolina, but I'm based here in Boston. I actually, North Carolina is near and dear to my heart, so anybody there, hello to you, but hello to wherever you are, and thank you again for joining us. We hope you find this helpful. We'll take the next 15 or 20 minutes here to walk you through some of what we do here at Labster, give you an idea of how this could fit into your course. And feel free to enter questions as we go here. I'll see them as they pop up, but we'll go ahead and get those questions answered for you at the end of the presentation. So thank you for entering those. So this is today's agenda. We're just going to speak through some general course criteria and how Labster typically fits into faculty's courses, the work we're doing here at Labster, similar schools maybe who are currently using us across the country that you could identify with. At the end of the day, this is really about you getting an understanding of how this could fit, how this could help support your students, the courses that you teach. And we can certainly look a little bit deeper on an individual basis if you find that you need more help identifying what direction to take this resource at the end of our conversation here today. But first, let's talk a little bit about where we began, a brief background. Labster began as an outreach project at the University of Copenhagen back in 2013, not too long ago. Our co-founder was a PhD student in charge of introductory labs who really found the students in his classroom and in his lab were showing up, but very disengaged from the materials, the concepts that they were being introduced to. And he knew the potential of the material that they were learning and how cool he thought it was, but why didn't the students see that? And that led him to develop Labster, and he wanted to create a world where students could interact and contextualize the material and the subjects that they were learning. So since 2013, we've grown rapidly. We have a catalog of over 160 simulations covering a variety of different disciplines. We've been able to serve almost 3 million students worldwide to help them stay on track in their courses. Our founder's vision for Labster was to bridge the gap between the classroom learning and how we experience the real world. During COVID, we have acted like a Band-Aid for so many teachers, but as we continue to consider the longevity and helping schools prepare for the unexpected, faculty have found Labster to be an adaptable, malleable resource for their course. In fact, most of our clientele who are currently using us were using us before the pandemic. And really, there's a lot of different uses of supplementing your course. And that is truly the intention of the resource, although it can be adapted into really whatever modality that you see or find yourself in. And that's because anything can be simulated, from lab safety to practicing complex techniques like pipetting. Just like a pilot in training needs to perform flight simulations before they can actually fly, students really need to demonstrate required techniques and have a understanding of what they're about to do in a real wet lab before they should actually be able to do it. Even scenarios that can't be done in the real world can be simulated, like building molecules. Ultimately, the platform gives the ability to try and retry experiments in a safe, cost-effective way. There's a lot of different ways that the simulations that we offer in our platform can impact your course. Accessibility is the #1 thing on everybody's mind this past year, of course. But there are probably unique ways in which your course could be or you see your course improving, the quality of the education perhaps that your students are getting, how engaged they are. What ways could you see learning outcomes improve in your course? Are you seeing non-majors perhaps come in and having a much lower knowledge level than high performers, and trying to figure out how to navigate and reach all students and not watch others fall behind? We have a gamified aspect to our simulations that reach all levels and across all levels of interest. So no matter where you're starting in your science education, our simulations are really designed to, be fun and a interactive, real way to learn. Perhaps without even knowing it. We find that students play our simulations on average 2.3 times. They might be only required to do it once, but voluntarily they're going back, and that's because they're designed to be fun and enjoyable. So start thinking about some of the ways that you could see something like this impacting your course. I'm going to play a compilation of some highlights across various different simulations that we have, and just talk through some of the features of our platform as I do so. As I mentioned, Labster's platform contains over 160 simulations. Each is a gamified case study covering 1 to 2 lectures and 1 lab practical session, typically taking anywhere from 30 to 45 minutes to complete, depending on the complexity of the topic or the student. We've designed each simulation around a storyline that anchors abstract theories and lab techniques to a real-world application right there in their web browser. So as a student, I'll be required to complete every step that I would complete in a real wet lab. In doing so, learning lab protocol, putting on my goggles, my lab coat, keeping my workbench clean. And if I don't do these things properly, in comes the opportunity for productive failure, to see the repercussions of my mistakes in a controlled environment. Our interactive quizzes are strategically asked throughout simulation, tracking my understanding. And if I ever get stuck, I can consult the theory tab in my very own virtual lab pad, so I can return to the question more informed and answer the question correctly. Once the simulation is complete, a grade will be generated based on the score, and it will be directly integrated into your learning management system if you use one. You'll see the first attempt, best attempt, but we can also break down really valuable information, like perhaps where the class is getting stuck the most, where they're most comfortable, how much time they've spent in the lab. Really impactful information that perhaps you might not be getting right now. So I want to just take you into our faculty resource page, and this is something that you can consult with the representative in your area if you're looking to try some simulations for yourself and learn more. And I'm just going to walk you through a little bit about what that would look like in advance. So here you can see faculty resource page. It's like a sandbox environment for our teachers to pilot out some simulations where you can start to think about rigor for the types of students that you have, the content alignment to support your course objectives, a variety of different topics. And you'll see we have categorized all of our content into variety different disciplines. I can click on any one of these and I can explore relevant to my field. If I click on general biology, for example, I can see the core simulations most commonly used in this area. I can also see related simulations that may be not as commonly used, but are also really helpful. You'll find that there's a lot of crossover of simulations and different topics. Some are more conceptual based, some are more technique based. So it really gives you an opportunity to select based on the needs that you're hoping to present to your students, and learning objectives that you hope to achieve. So if I hover over any one of these simulations, I can see the learning objectives and a snapshot of what it covers. Here in cellular respiration, I can see that we're going to explain the structural changes of glucose and ATP during glycosis, for example. We're going to analyze blood glucose and lactic acid concentrations by the end of the simulation. So if I click here, and again, this is something that you all will be able to do on your own and explore in depth if you so choose. Again, reach out to your corresponding representative in your area, and you'll be able to click here and play the simulation yourself. You'll also be able to explore the lab manuals that accompany all of the simulations. You can peruse the question and answer key in advance to verify that the simulation is really going to cover what it's intended to, or what you hope or expect it to. I can also see the theory that the simulation incorporates, and I'll also be able to refer to this theory tab in my virtual simulation as a student. You'll see a summary of the simulation as well as I scroll down. Any collaborators that we worked with to develop the simulation, we've worked with ASU, University of Denmark, for example, MIT, and if we have worked with a collaborator, they'll be listed here. The simulation length, the learning objectives again, and any techniques that are covered in this particular simulation. So if I click into this recording, I can now fast forward the simulation, stop it, pause it, to get a better idea of what we're going to be doing. And you can do this as a teacher to identify, the simulation and experience it briefly without taking up too much time and having to do it for yourself before you assign it. Here I am starting off in the lab, and I am getting introduced to Dr. One, that's the drone who's going to be help guide me throughout the course of my simulation or my lab experience. Now here I am at the basketball courts. I just teleported into the field, a real world scenario that starts off all our simulations so we can help contextualize what we're about to learn. So I'm speaking with the basketball captains here. One of them is performing great. He's an all-star as usual, but the other, who also performs traditionally really well, is lagging today, and we need to find out why that is. And so now we've just collected samples, blood samples from the basketball captains, and we're going back to the lab to analyze. We're now looking around the lab, different workbenches and stations that we have available to us. And we can see that there's a hollow table in front of us. We're going to be able to actually start manipulating blood sample and the blood sample data, glucose levels, lactic acid, and we're going to be able to manipulate it, constantly referring back to that narrative in the beginning that we just set up. So we know and can be reminded that what we're doing here in the lab has a real world impact. I'm now able to see a diagram at the molecular level at the hollow table, something that obviously, wouldn't be able to be seen in a real world wet lab, which is unique to virtual simulations. And I'm consulting now the theory tab because I might have had a question about what I was looking at, and I can get more information at my fingertips. Here's examples of the multiple choice questions that will be asked, paced throughout the simulation, testing my knowledge and making sure that I am on track. So again, you'll be able to explore this if you should so choose after we have our conversation here today. Just talking a little bit about how teachers build Labster into their course. There's a variety of different ways. There's no right or wrong way. It just really depends on where you find yourself, whatever the global climate is, whether we're recovering from a global pandemic, we're in a hybrid situation in a flipped classroom, if you need to be remote, or you're face-to-face, whatever it is, this is a resource that adapts to you and your teaching methods. In a flipped classroom, students would complete a simulation prior to that week's lecture that will give them an idea about the topics and techniques that would be applicable to what you're covering in class. These would be graded homework assignments, so not only would they be on the same page as you, but you'll have graded work in your workbook for that specific week. For an online course, for example, these simulations would be assigned weekly and completed as a graded lab assignment, giving your students access to something they would not have otherwise. Now, I always like to go back to why we're doing what we're doing, why I'm so passionate about the work we're doing here at Labster. This is a tool that was never intended to replace what you all do. The role of the faculty members, the professors, the teachers are not going away, and that's because nothing could ever replace you. They achieve, you achieve the audio visual, the reading um, in class. You're even maybe now incorporating different visualizations in class, whatever it may be. And if you do have access to a real wet lab, some experience the practice doing. And that practice doing in the pedagogy of learning is the kinesthetic learning. And that coupled with what you do, the reading and the lecture and the relationship you have with the students to inspire their learning is profoundly impactful. It's what helps ultimately their recall and engagement with the materials that are presented to them. We've done some studies on this. Our first publication in Nature Biotech showed improvements in learning outcomes with the implementation of Labster at University of Denmark. So as you can see, we tested 3 different subgroups, one with traditional teaching alone, one with simulation learning alone. But once we combined those 2 learning methods, simulations and the teachers, learning outcomes doubled. And we find this consistently across all classrooms, all learning levels. Not only that, what I think is even more profound is that those students who did not experience the simulation learning 40 days later were tested on the same material that was presented to them and did not recall almost any of the information that they had learned. Uh, and we tested those who did experience the simulation and participate in their learning and were accountable for it in that way. And 40 days later, they recalled nearly all of it. And I think that's, I think true for any of us to speak to. If something interests you and excites you, you'll probably remember it for a long time after you've learned it. Otherwise, it might be just kind of a regurgitation. You take the test, and forget about it. You might even do really well on the test. I was even guilty of that too. I was a good student, but uh, what I would have given to actually have taken so much more of that valuable information with me as I go out into the world. So start thinking about those types of things in your classroom too. But that would really conclude now our presentation here together. I really thank you for your time and joining us today. It was a pleasure being able to show you a little bit about what we do here. And I would love, as well as my colleagues and the representatives in your area, to meet you all and learn more about your courses and help guide you if you so choose, or looking to learn a little bit more about how really this could fit in what you're doing. We'd love to do that. But please enter any questions that you have in the question and answer box. I'd be happy to open it up now to any questions that you have outstanding, and just take some time here and wait for those to come in. I don't see any currently, but feel free. And I'll just stand by for a few minutes as I wait for any to come through. No questions yet, I see. Here's one. How long is each simulation? Depending on the complexity of the topic, depending on the student, it can take anywhere. I've seen, students complete a simulation in 20 minutes. They're really, well versed in the topic. But on average, it would be about 30, 35 minutes, really no more than 45 minutes at any given time. Where do we locate our contact? Great question. If you go to labster.com, you could submit an inquiry to learn more, and that'll direct you to the appropriate representative in your area. You'll just fill out what school you're representing, what questions you may have, what topics you teach, and then we'll filter that to the appropriate representative in your area. Does the license give access to all the modules? Or are they licensed in packages? So split between electrical engineering and pharmacy, for example. Another great question. So there are different access types. None of the access types restrict you to one category of simulations or one discipline, for example, but it will limit the amount of simulations you have access to. Obviously, the starter access, you have access to the fewest amount of simulations, up to 8. Beyond that, if you see yourself using more than 8 simulations, then you would have full access, where you could use simulations from across all of the disciplines and as many as you'd like. Either way, you have all of them available to you. It's just that the different license types restrict how many you have access to. So great question. Do you need a computer to do this? Yes, you need a laptop or a desktop. As long as you can download a YouTube video, which we know our students do, you can access our browser and our platform. We recommend Google Chrome or Firefox, excuse me. Close out any tabs. It's a very powerful tool, powerful platform. It's got a lot of data. So, the less noise there is, just the more efficiently it will run. Is it adapted to professionals working in biology labs in hospitals? And for example, not students. Certainly can. We have an entire nursing program out of ASU, for example, that uses us. We work with and support, a variety of different industries across, between students, between unions, nursing, anybody can really find use for this, as long as you find topics relative to the subject matter that you teach or you're interested in learning or presenting. Again, the whole breadth of our content is pretty great. So if you have specific questions with alignment or how this could fit in, definitely recommend you reach out to your representative, and you can have a chance to really explore that and visualize how this might work for you. Okay. How much does it cost for students? It can range. Well, it does range from $49 for starter access to $99 for full access. Now, there's also a third option, which is institutional access. We see a lot of schools going this direction, especially if they have a couple of teachers who are interested in implementing this. Then the institution will support the investment, cover it up front. Sometimes, a fee is assessed and allocated to the student to recoup that cost, but it ends up being a much more cost-effective and accessible way to roll out our platform, and it can really reduce the cost, making it anywhere from $20 to $40 per student. Otherwise, $49 is the lowest access license, and the full access license is $99, which would grant you access to unlimited amount of simulation use. So that is all the questions I see here. I'll wait a few more minutes in case I see any others roll in. But great questions, everyone. No additional questions I see. Okay. Well, I will hang back for a few more minutes just in case anybody has any last minute questions that come to mind. But I don't see any further questions have been risen. So thank you so much for joining us again. It's been a pleasure sharing a little bit about Labster with you, and I really uh, implore you to reach out to your corresponding reps if you have any, more specific questions. And please let me know how else we can be of help to you in your courses. And have a great day. Have a great St. Patrick's Day. Thank you so much. Greetings from Bolivia. Hola. You are welcome. We enjoy the work we do. Yes, you are welcome. You are welcome. You're welcome. Thank you, everyone. Jim and Ala, Jonathan, Matthew, Jim, thank you. Oh, I see. Looks like someone had some issues with their audio and couldn't hear the presentation. I'm sorry, Matt. I definitely, we can go ahead and set up a time with your rep in your area. They'll be able to, demonstrate everything that I went through here, and answer any specific questions. It might be, a better use of your time too, to instead of watching a recording one more time. I'm sorry that it wasn't working. I'll hang back just a couple more minutes in case anyone has any last minute questions come to mind, but feel free to go on with your days. Hopefully this was helpful. All right, everyone. Have a great rest of your day. We hope to hear from you soon.